like to call to order the regular meeting of the Royal Oak Schools Board of Education. If we can please stand for the pledge. Thank you. Item 3.1, acceptance of agenda. Do we have any additions or deletions? Seeing none, agenda is approved by consensus. Moving on to 3.2, approval of minutes. Can I have a recommendation, please? Mr. Jaworski?
Resolved that the Royal Oak Schools Board of Education approves the following minutes: the July 13th, 2023 special minutes of the Finance and Facilities Committee, and July 13th, 2023, the regular board minutes.
Thank you. Can I have a second? Mrs. Anderson? May we have a roll call, please?
Trustee Jasinski?
Yes.
Trustee Cook?
Yes.
I'll vote yes. Trustee Jaworski?
Yes.
Trustee Alexander?
Yes.
Trustee Van Heitzma?
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to presentations and donations. 4.1, M3 donation. Dr. Ioannis?
Thank you, Mrs. Van Heitzma. I want to take a moment to thank M3 Investments. Oh, I'm sorry, but I see Mr. Michael Pesendorfer here. Thank you. Just wanted to thank M3 Investments for being such a gracious donator and supporter of our Launching into Learning Professional Development Day. I'll talk a little bit more in my updates, but we're very excited about this full day opportunity to learn from our own teachers and staff in a half day of professional development session. M3 Investments was very generous in their donation to support. The sponsorship really helped with gaining some resources that we needed for the event, some sponsorship for the food, and just some resources that we could allocate. So thank you for that donation. We greatly appreciate it.
You're welcome.
I didn't know if you had anything you'd like to say as well.
So I would just like to say M3 Investment Services has been in business for 27 years. We moved to Royal Oak 8 years ago. We were in Berkeley prior to that for 12 years. And we serve the education community and education professionals. And we're very happy to partner with the Royal Oak School District in a number of ways and support the school district. And we look forward to a long relationship on a go-forward basis of supporting education here in Royal Oak and basically just trying to be a team player for the community.
Thank you. Any comments, questions? Well, thank you. I do appreciate it. And I know our staff and our team appreciate it a lot. And it's important to have community partners. And so we're grateful for whatever community partners that we have and for your continued support. So thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. And we will see you again, doing this again sometime. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we have a recommendation, please? Mrs. Anderson. Oh my gosh, no, Mrs. Alexander, sorry.
Resolved that Royal Oak Schools Board of Education gratefully accepts the following donations as presented. M3, $3,600 teacher appreciation for PD Day.
Thank you. Can we have a second? Mrs. Anderson, may we have a roll call, please?
Yes, and I do want to say thank you as well. We really appreciate it. Trustee Cook?
Yes.
I will vote yes. Trustee Jaworski?
Yes.
Trustee Alexander?
Yes.
Trustee Van Heitzma?
Yes,
Trustee Jasinski?
Yes.
The motion passes. Thank you very much.
and thank you for being here tonight as well. Moving on to item 4.2, Chartwells. Mrs. Abella?
Good evening. Tonight we have with us Mr. Jacobs, Mr. Mike Jacobs, our food service director here in Royal Oak, and Ann Smith, the area director that I work directly with all things regarding Chartwells. They have a presentation for you this evening as we begin to launch back into learning and what the kids are going to see in the lunchroom this year.
Yep. Thank you for having us. We want to talk to you a little bit about what we did last year in terms of menu improvements, what we're going to do this year, and then we also want to talk about the upcoming free meals for all students. So you can see in front of you and on the screen some of the things we did last year, we added fresh burgers grilled daily at the high school and the middle school. This was a change from some pre-cooked products that are typically used in school food. And we were able to do this in part mainly by the equipment that was provided with the remodel at the high school and some funds that we used for the middle school, so we had the correct equipment. And then, of course, having staff trained and able to do that was also very important. Fresh boneless, skinless chicken breast grilled daily also. At the high school, we're going to begin that at the middle school this coming year. We also were able to get fresh burgers out to the elementary school from the high school. So we acted sort of as the production facility in this one. We don't often put raw proteins in elementary schools. It's just a little harder to control. And with foodborne illness, we like to handle that at the high school. So we were able to take the same product we used at the high school and cook it there and then push it out to the elementaries where they rethermalize it. So they had the same product we're serving at the high school and the middle school. Fresh cut fruit every day at the high school was a huge addition. Kids loved it. You know, fruit and vegetables a requirement. It's been that way for quite a while, and not everyone loves it, but this made a big difference. I think kids were more willing to take the fresh cut fruit every day. We added it to the middle school near the end of the school year. It wasn't every single day, but we're going to get to that level in the new school year. We added an entree salad to the elementary menu. This was received okay. Wasn't over the top, but it was a good addition. It gave a fresh look, and we can continue to do that in the new year as well. The last one there, plant-based proteins. We added at the high school things like, what was it, the Impossible Burger, like at Burger King, same product. We also used the chicken tenders, plant-based chicken tenders. So every day there was a plant-based protein option at the high school, and that was received very well. So some things for this coming year. We want to continue the theme of getting away from either pre-cooked or frozen. And to that end, all the fresh vegetables we want to use to eliminate frozen. So we haven't used canned vegetables for decades, which is great. Frozen is the next good level, but fresh is even better. So anytime we have a broccoli, a cauliflower, be it hot or cold, it's going to be fresh and not frozen. And then we'll cook it in-house and serve it that way. We want to expand the use of fresh grilled chicken to the elementary schools. Much like I described the hamburger, we'll do the same process with the chicken breast. So anything that would have diced or julienne chicken in the elementary schools will be the same fresh, boneless, skinless chicken breast and not pre-cooked product. So we want to then take a leap to get some of that fresh cut fruit out to the elementary schools as well. And I think that'll be received very well. Another thing we're going to do is continue to use the chat back text-based survey to get more feedback from the students at all levels. And that really helps us know what they want and where to focus our energies. So, speaking of chat back, a lot of people are asking, how do I influence the menus? And in fact, the state is mandating that we add an avenue for that specific task, which is a little bit different than our wellness committee. And so you can see under number 2 there, the wellness committee will have a new subcommittee seeking specific menu improvement information. We didn't want to create a whole nother committee, so we are folding it into the wellness committee. And a couple board members are on the wellness committee, and we appreciate that. And for everyone else out there watching this, please consider joining the wellness committee. It's a great way to see what's going on in the school in terms of food service and other things as well. So I think an invitation goes out at the beginning of the year. On the right-hand side, in 22-23, we surveyed the high school. That led to a lot of things I talked about, the plant-based proteins, the grilled chicken breast, some a la carte items, soft pretzels, ice cream sandwiches. We also did the chat back survey at the middle school, and that led to the addition of chicken tenders, the fresh cut fruit, and an à la carte item, slushies, which, of course, they love that one. And in the upcoming year, we want to use the chatback survey to survey elementary students' parents. It's a little sophisticated, and the little kids don't have the phones to do the texting, so we'll go straight to the parents on that. So it's a really good tool. All right, so just a little summation there. There's some pictures on the left of some of our wonderful staff. In the middle, we've got the fresh burgers when we did a Build Your Own Burger Day at the middle school. And then there's a picture on the right of some kids enjoying some of the new foods. All right. Shifting gears to this coming school year, free lunch and breakfast for all students. We all have heard about this, it's fantastic. Another good opportunity to feed as many kids as we can. So there's some highlights here, some points of interest. I specifically put 1 free breakfast and 1 free lunch per day because when we had free meals for everybody in the past, there's a tendency for kids to show up and just think it's a buffet. And it is not that, unfortunately. MDE provides funding for 1 free breakfast and 1 free lunch every day. And of course, that has to have a fruit and or vegetable with it. So you can't just come up and get tater tots if that's what you want. You have to have the meal. A la carte items have to be paid for. That's also not covered under the free meal program. Free and reduced applications are very important to the school district for funding. Even though everyone will eat for free this year, those applications are very important. I've had about 30 or so come in already, so we're hoping to get a good return on those. And there will be a mailing going out in the next week or so with those in there. Number 4 is specific to the elementary school process. Those kids need to continue to pre-order meals a day ahead. That way we can get the right amount of food out to the elementary schools so they can cook the right amount of meals for those kids. If they just show up the day of and decide 5 minutes before lunch that they want to eat that lunch, it's going to cause havoc for all the kids that did order. So that's very important. And number 5, good news here, current student food service debt will be erased. So anyone that had a negative balance, that is going away. And you'll start the year fresh at 0. All right, questions?
Mr. Jaworski.
All right, thank you both for attending and reading this evening. When I run, I have a whole list of questions, so just be ready. They're not hard, and I hope not. Is there any option for the elementary students who may partake in a plant-based diet? Like, I didn't see anything presented that if there's a vegetarian child in elementary school that they have an option.
Well, vegetarian, yes. Plant-based protein specifically, not yet.
Okay,
Okay, many of our items are vegetarian, not vegan, but vegetarian. But we have not crossed the bridge to put a plant-based chicken nugget on that menu yet. We can look at that this year.
okay, I appreciate that, thank you. The free and reduced applications, you said you received about 30. Is that an average number for this time of?
For this time of the year, it's
Summer.
actually higher than normal. We usually don't see them
excellent.
this early. School is starting earlier this year, so that could be the case. But the first year that everybody went free, it was equally as important to get those apps, and we did not see a drop-off, which was great, and we don't anticipate that this year.
Okay,
So
perfect. That's what I wanted to hear. And my last question, if an elementary child does not order prior to coming to lunch, are they given a lunch?
Yes,
Okay,
yes, we make,
We pay
yeah, allowances for that. If 5 classrooms show up, that's going to be a little tougher, but yes, we do feed everybody.
perfect. Thank you.
Mr. Shinsky.
Thanks so much. This is a great presentation. Thanks for the cookies. We appreciate it. I I think I know the answer to this, but it's a little bit more like I want to, make sure we're saying some of these things out loud. I know that some of the community concern in hearing that there's going to be free lunches is that we're thinking back to the COVID free meals, right? And there were some concerns about the quality of the food, the completeness of the meals, how well-rounded they were, and those types of things. Could you address that a little bit? Just like what's different now than the last time we had this, because it's a different circumstance.
It's a good question.
Yeah.
The menus will be as they were last year, 2 hot entrees in the elementary school, the full complement of choices at the middle school and the high school. And the thing that was different then was the supply chain was crippled, and we were struggling to get enough food in the back door of any kind to feed kids. So we had to scale back the variety at that point, but we don't anticipate that being a problem this year. Good.
Mrs. Cook?
Good evening. I wanted to commend you on expanding the fresh foods that are served to our students, and I love seeing that the elementary schools are in that mix as well, that you're bringing down the chicken breast and burgers and trying to find a way to get the fresh cut fruit. One thing I'm wondering about is with the breakfasts. Are we using a similar tact to try to get more fresh made? I guess I'm thinking more about our maybe carbohydrate type things, like a pancake or a frutal is one of the things, a lot of things that are heated in that plastic. Do we have a plan to try to go away from that a bit?
We do now. Yeah, it's a great point. That's the trickiest one. The participation in breakfast is show up and get a meal. That's one challenge. We never know how many kids are coming. So it makes it difficult to put all that freshness out there and throw it away every day. It's a little tricky, but yeah, it is carbohydrate heavy, the entrees at breakfast. We do some hot entrees as well, some sandwiches, some things like that, so there's some balance. But we could expand that for sure. Yeah, I appreciate that input.
Okay, thank you. And I'm not sure this will be addressed exactly to you, but maybe more to our team, is that do we anticipate an uptick in participation in breakfast?
Absolutely.
And
we do.
then how are we staffing
Right.
that?
We are making some additions, mostly at the elementary schools where it's a smaller team of people in the kitchen to absorb the extra impact. And high school, middle school, it's a little easier. We have more bodies we can move around, but we are adding staff to the elementary schools.
Thank you.
Mrs. Anderson?
Can you tell us how a person would get on the wellness committee and what the commitment is if you get on the committee?
That's a good question.
There is an invite that goes out from Mary Beth, I believe, at the beginning of the school year. And then the chairperson, who I'm thinking is going to be the new athletic director, will email all participants with a schedule. As you know, in terms of your commit or responsibilities, it's kind of up to the individual. Some people really take on a lot, and others are there for a smaller role, and that's fine too. You're on the committee. You could maybe talk to that, Marianne.
So I know with all of our committees that we have in the district, there is an application that you fill out on the website under the committee section. I'm looking at Mrs. Setterfield.
Just went out with the district, in the dispatch as well.
Oh, okay, and it was in the dispatch that went out. But you can certainly join any of the committees. You fill out the application, you send it in, the instructions on where to send it are included there. And then the committee chair will contact the committee members and then work to schedule the times. I'm trying to think, wellness committee, we were quarterly or every other month? Yeah, I think it was every other month. And then I guess the subcommittee will be participants that are on that committee that are interested in working towards
Yes.
the work of that subcommittee. Okay.
Yep.
Correct.
And I
Usually
think,
it's a year commitment. It's usually for the school year commitment.
yeah, and certainly it's based on people's schedules and life happens and we understand that. And so, because sometimes, people have meetings, but certainly, if you join the committee, you're welcome at any time. And I think it's important for people to have a voice. And particularly, I think, just all the changes the food service has made has been amazing. I know even like the fresh fruit, even the presentation, when you see the presentation of fresh fruit, even included in every section at the cafeteria, like at the high school. I know kids, I remember this from my drama parent days, you would have whole apples and the bowl would sit there and kids would pass it right up. But when you have cut up fruit, people want cut up fruit because it's already, in a way that's easier and it presents different and it's pretty and it's fun. So I'm glad to hear that. I guess at the elementary level, the fruit though, is it gonna be the same, like cut up fruit, or is it gonna be like packaged?
Well, we want it to be the same. Yes, it's typically a package of sliced apples. It's easier to handle and transport, things like that. So that's where the challenge will be, getting that same fresh product out there and getting it prepared in time. And with the higher numbers, it's gonna be a challenge, but we're up to it.
And I'm kind of deferring to Mrs. Abella on this one, sorry. We had a little conversation at the Finance and Facilities on how parents order at the elementary. And I thought there was some conversation about an app, and then some that we're gonna be able to order, on a piece of paper, or
We've had a little bit of a discussion about online ordering for the K-5. And that conversation included, of course, Dr. Ioannis is a former principal, and Mrs. Nipper was also there. And what might be the logistics? One of the things that we're really trying not to do is cause any more burden on the teachers, right? So that is something that we're gonna look at as we begin this school year. And if it's something that we can do and might remove some duties from teachers or be more helpful in the classroom, but we certainly wanna make sure that we're making the right move before we make a change.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions? I'm grateful for the breakfast option. I know breakfast is, I'm sorry, Tim, Mr. Jaworski? No. Oh. Okay. I know breakfast options are tricky, and just not knowing how many kids are gonna show up for breakfast. At the elementary level, and I guess at all the levels, is it something that the students show up earlier before school for the
Yeah.
breakfast option, or how does that work?
Yes, except at Oakland. Oakland and Upton had a breakfast in the classroom, which was attached to the Better with Breakfast grants that we received many years ago. This year, Upton has decided to go back into the cafeteria, so they are now also would have to get there approximately a half hour before school starts. Each school is slightly different, but right about 8 o'clock. Oakland is going to remain breakfast in the classroom, and that starts after they get to the classroom at 8:30-ish right there. So that's the one distinction.
Is that part of the, I'm asking Dr. Ioannis here, is that part of the, when people enroll, that information is out there so that students are aware?
Yeah, definitely.
are aware.
Yeah, so principals always include that in their newsletter each week, that they have information for parents on the breakfast opportunity. So it's always there available for parents. Our administrative staff works on that as well at each building. But I wanted to take a moment to thank Mike Jacobs for that extra staff member for the elementary schools. Spending my time at Adams was wonderful, but lunch was always difficult. This extra person will be very helpful in streamlining the process for our elementary kids to submit their lunch choice, to get their food. It's going to make a tremendous impact, because it was something that we struggled with in the past, not having lunch monitors to serve in that role, and then our cooks were working hard in making the food and making kind of the transaction component up. So this third person will be huge for our elementary schools. So thank you for that.
Yep.
Just one more plug for everybody who is eligible for free and reduced lunch, to make sure to still complete the application, even though lunch and breakfast are going to be provided. So
Yep.
just one more plug for that.
Yeah, that's critical. That is really critical for funding.
And thank you both for being here and for this presentation. Look forward to another year at the Wellness Committee and
Good.
seeing what other fun things will come out of food service. So
Thanks
thank
for
you very
having us.
much.
Thanks for
Appreciate it.
having us. Thank you.
Moving on to item 5, reports. 5.1, diversity, equity, inclusion. Dr. Martin.
Good evening. Just a few updates this evening from the DEI area. I mentioned this before, but I want to mention again that the JEDI Committee has decided to do a survey this fall. The last one was done in September of 2020, right after COVID. So we're about due. Things have changed. We have 2 new principals. and a lot of different staff at this point. I have been working with Dr. Elizabeth Perret, who is the evaluation and assessment consultant at Open Schools. With this survey, there are areas that needed to be taken out because they had questions related to COVID and also the CCEC, which is no longer on there. And once that is done, we will take it to JEDI to have a look at it, before we send it out. We're trying to send it out the second or third week of school starting. And so that's going to be and I don't know if I've said this before, it's going to be a parent and guardian survey. So we want to know how they're feeling about the job that we're doing in the district. So that will go out the second or third week in September. And our first meeting for the year for JEDI is scheduled for Tuesday, September 12th at 5:30 in here. So, and I will remind my folks as that comes along. I just spent a 3-day intensive workshop, 24 hours on restorative practices. So I am very excited about working with Ms. Jennifer Nipper, who is our new supervisor for continuous improvement, in how we can roll this out again and to make sure we get everybody up to speed. Again, we had a lot of turnover, so we probably have about 40% of folks who may have never been through this training before. So along with the PD that I'm working on with Dr. Ioannis in his area, we're gonna figure out some things we can always also do, with restorative justice. I've mentioned this before, but I will mention it again as well. Plan on increasing my presence in the schools this year. But before I say how, I'm gonna meet with all the principals themselves and figure out the best way for me to do that in their school. Every school has a different personality and way that they run. So I just want them to know that I'm there for however they want to use me and however they want to need me. And last but not least, there's a Welcome Back Connected event. Believe it or not, we're getting ready to go back to school. I can't understand it. It's sponsored by ROMPA, PAC, and the Royal Oak Council DEI Committee. It will be Saturday, August 26th, from 5 to 7 p.m. And this year they're having it in the parking lot behind Rom's. If you went last year, it was in a park, and I can't quite remember where that was, but it was really nice, and I think this one's gonna be nice too. So let's all show our support and try to be there and meet some parents and new principals and all that kind of stuff. And that concludes my report for today. Questions, comments?
Thank you. Any questions? Mr. Jaworski?
And Dr. Martin, what is the data you're trying to gather with the DEI survey? Or is that the survey you spoke of, just trying to get a general feel of what the community thinks of our
No.
performance?
So there was a survey done in 2020, as I said before, and for fidelity, we have to use the same survey. So we want to see if we've gone up or down in some areas. But it was called the Parent and Student Guardian Survey. To my understanding, we had one of the best responses in terms of districts in Oakland County who did such a thing. We had over 5,000 people participate.
Excellent.
So now we need to see, after all we've been through in the past 4 years, how are you feeling now? And that will guide our work moving forward. Areas that we find that are a challenge or not where we'd like them to be.
Perfect, thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Usinski?
I'm really glad we're continuing to further and improve our commitment to restorative justice as a district. We've talked a little bit about the teacher back-to-school opportunity and kind of what are we calling it? The
launch into learning.
Launch into learning, right? This kind of a variety of professional development opportunities that
Yes.
teachers are going to have. Is restorative justice going to be
I saw a couple
part of that
sessions.
conversation?
I'm not doing them, but we have so many talented people in the district that, Joe, how many sessions are there?
Yeah, we have over 70 sessions offered
So
by our
great.
teachers, multiple sessions I saw for restorative practices as far as how to
Excellent.
incorporate that and build that proactive component within your classroom. So yeah, we're excited about it, but
There's at least
definitely.
2 of those, because
Yeah.
I saw 2 different presenters. So the only thing is you can only choose 1 per session. So, but they've done a wonderful job. And so people who are interested in that, but we're going to, as a district, talk about how we can make sure that everybody feels comfortable with it, including parents, because, sometimes, if something really bad happens to your kid, like the first response may be expulsion or something like that. And restorative practices doesn't operate like that.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, that we need to take some opportunity to just make sure everybody understands it as a principle, but I'm just glad to hear it's part of a back-to-school process.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think currently we have about 5 or 6 of our administrators who are fully trained in restorative practices that have gone through the 3-day training that Dr. Martin just spoke of. I know specifically those 5 or 6 principals. We also have several teachers throughout all of our buildings that have had this training before, but like Dr. Martin said, this is really the time to continue to dig deeper into that component with the new staff, with our other new principals. And really, we know the core of it is if we're able to build those communities in our classrooms and be proactive in this work, that the ideal goal is to reduce the discipline or reduce some of the issues that might arise. But when they do arise, using this restorative practice model, we're really able to restore a lot of situations that can be difficult at times. So we're excited about this opportunity.
Yes.
And just one additional comment. I think one of the things we've heard over the last couple of years too is just educating parents on what restorative practices are. So I know that we've redone our student handbooks, so it does outline a bit more on what those practices are. But I think we still talk about, educating families in regards to what that process is.
Right.
So people recognize this is the process that we follow within our district for those types of issues, so.
And quite frankly, I learned something, there's like more than one way to do a circle, for example. You know what I'm saying? So these are things that, you're right, I would like the parents to understand. So I did throw around in my head, and again, I haven't met with curriculum or the new supervisor for continuous instruction about how we can get that out to parents. Maybe bringing back Parent University or a more in-person thing this time. So yeah, we're working on it.
I just thought of something else too. When we did that last survey in 2020, Mrs. Fitzpatrick really helped us as building administrators review that survey, the parent and guardian survey that Dr. Kim talked about. We spent a lot of time looking at our individual building survey results, and it was a good time for us as building administrators to reflect on some of the practices that we had. That were either making parents and students or parents feel positive about it, or maybe more concerned and worried about what we were doing. So I know that Mrs. Fitzpatrick has talked internally with our administrative team about how we can continue to be reflective this upcoming school year. So I kind of see that this survey will really play right into giving another opportunity for our administrators to take a look at how our parents and guardians are feeling about our school situations and school communities. So it'll be another good resource for us to use.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Dr. Martin.
Thank you all.
Moving on to item 5.2, student representative to the board. I think that we introduced Matthew to everybody, but one of our student representatives to the board is Matthew Matola. And I think he's met everybody here, so I'm very grateful for that. And if you have a few words that you'd like to say, Matthew, we'd love to hear from you.
Sure. Hello, everyone. I'm Matthew Matola. I'm a rising senior at Royal Oak High School this year, and I would like to say it's an honor to be on this board with you all, and it's an honor to have been chosen for this. So, at Royal Oak High School, I'm a member of the Model UN Club, and I have been now for 4 years. This year, I'm going to be the Secretary General, and I'm also involved with Drama Club and Lights and Sound crew on that club, as well as other lights and sound related activities like for concerts and things like that. So I was thinking about maybe diversifying what I engage with in the school community, and Model UN's a big part of my life, so sort of more political and legal and talky activities are my thing. So I was really interested in this opportunity when I heard about it on WOAK, and I heard it over the news. I'm like, oh, that sounds like a great opportunity to partake in. My mom, who's also here with us, she's on a lot of these committees too and talks about them at home, and it's inspired me to join them as well and think about how the board makes a difference in our education and how as students we should keep that in mind and also maybe try and engage more with the board so we can influence our education to that level. So thank you, and I'm happy to be here.
Well, thank you, Matthew. Do we have any questions for Matthew? Oh, okay. Well, thank you. I'm very excited for you to join us this year. And as always, we're trying to engage students more. It is your education, after all. So we really appreciate you taking the time to be here with us. It's very critical, and it's a voice that's not us, which is good to hear as well. So we appreciate that. Moving on to item 6, communications. Mrs. Anderson?
We have had just a few emails. Jacqueline Rice and Nija were both asking about getting work permits, and Patrice Rink regarding Dr. Martin.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 7, public comment. If you'd like to make a public comment, a person may address the board on an agenda or non-agenda item by completing a note card located inside the boardroom and place the card in the basket prior to the citizen public comment period. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. If you need more time, you are offered a second opportunity to address the board at the end of the meeting with an additional 3 minutes. Please address the board as a whole and not individually. Public comment is not intended for the exchange of dialogue. This is a time for members of the public to express their views. We are paying attention to your comments and appreciate them. However, school board members do not respond to public comment during the meeting. Questions that arise from public comment shall be referred to the superintendent or their designee for review, study, and possible future response. Thank you in advance for your cooperation. I have Ashley Reynolds.
Hi, thank you for taking time and listening. Like you said, my name's Ashley Reynolds. I have 2 children in the district. Unfortunately, I was out of town for the last school board meeting, so I was unable to speak to the recent things in the news regarding the DEI and what was going on with that. And I'm here as a parent requesting more transparency, not less. So I have a hard time when my elementary kids come home and tell me things, policies that have changed at the school that I had no idea. I think I should be informed about policies prior to them happening at the school with my children. So I think it's great. We're trying to help, all different types of students and make safe places for them. And I think that needs to happen. But as a parent, I want to be involved in that. And I'm asking for more transparency. We've had experiences prior to this where I've had to be the one reaching out to teachers and reaching out to our principal for more transparency with not a lot of response. And so I'm asking with this whole thing, I haven't heard any updates from it. I got an email that went out to the whole community from the superintendent saying they were requesting parents' input and valued input. I haven't heard anything about that. So I would appreciate being included in this type of communications. I would value that. My students would value that are in the district. I don't want to have to go to a different district. We live in Royal Oak for a reason, and we moved to Royal Oak for a reason. And I want what's best for my children, though, ultimately. And so I'm just sitting here as a parent asking for more transparency. As you create new policies, as you create these new things, let us know as parents. Don't make my elementary kid come home and tell me. And then I'm on, emailing principals and having to follow up on that. So I appreciate all of you and all the hard work you put in and all the teachers. We have phenomenal teachers. We have great principals. We have wonderful people in our district. And I truly believe that. But I think we need to remember what we're here for. We're here for our students ultimately. And we want what's best for them and their development and their the opportunities they have moving forward. So as a parent, I'm just asking for more transparency as we move ahead. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Patrice Rink.
Good evening, everybody. There's nothing better than transparency and accountability, so that seems to be the theme for tonight. And I have been to the last 2 Board of Education meetings regarding the email from Superintendent Fitzpatrick, where she mentioned that Dr. Kimberly Martin had attended a conference and made a few comments, one being, we are working with our record-keeping system so that certain screens can't be seen by parents. If there's a nickname in there, we're trying to hide. Superintendent denied that it happened until I sent her the audio clip of Dr. Martin and what she said at the conference. We asked for a follow-up email to all the parents in the district of what was discovered. Nothing happened. That was a very specific comment, and it makes me think that there's something else going on. The follow-up should have been done for transparency and accountability. Also, I wanted to know why Dr. Martin on on the district website, send me a message is disabled. That's kind of strange. Now let's talk about her Facebook page containing racial content and some of the posts that she has on it. I sent the board and the superintendent an email last night with the screenshots that I have printed. And I have a stack here if anyone wants a copy. They show a very strong political leaning, especially in racial issues. One of the comments that was made gets my soul. It is white people refusing to learn about us while simultaneously not leaving us alone is so American. There's a post about Brett Kavanaugh and Ketanji Brown Jackson. I'm not sure what she's comparing there. It looks like qualifications possibly. I'm not sure. She's also comparing Jalen Walker and Robert Crimo III. What is the purpose of a DEI coordinator? And the superintendent's not here, so hopefully she'll listen to this. You have a lot of explaining to do to the board, the residents, and the parents of this district. Remember, transparency and accountability. I was told by a reporter that asked for some information, and in return, Amy Murphy, the communications specialist, insisted that she get a list of parents that were talking to the reporter. Why? What was her plan if she received the information? Retaliation? That's why you don't see a lot of parents here. They have contacted me. I'll be their voice. That's okay. I'm not afraid. There will be a follow-up article, just like the first two articles that have been out there after tonight's meeting as well. It should be coming out tomorrow. To the board and superintendent, we are closely watching you. And by the way, I don't think the board is very diverse now that we're talking about diversity. 4 of you are looking to be reelected in 2024. Do better and please do the right thing. And I can hear the comments that are being made. I don't appreciate it. Thank you. If anyone wants a copy of what was posted, I have it. And I was blocked. That's okay. We have an army that can find out what she's putting on there.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 8, consent agenda. We have 8.1, personnel changes, 8.2, payment of expenses. Do we have any additions or deletions? Seeing none, consent agenda is approved as presented. Moving on to item number 9, matters for discussion action. 9.1, curriculum and instruction. Dr. Ioannis.
Thank you, Mrs. Van Heitzma. I have several updates. This is a very important time of the year. I'll start with kindergarten. So our kindergarten fall events are all taking place the week of August 21st. We've talked about it before at previous board meetings, and our principals have communicated this to the incoming kindergarten families. This is an opportunity for all incoming kindergarten families and students to get an initial chance to engage with their school principal and the teachers that'll be working with them throughout the school year. So we're excited about those events. Plans are being made, and those schedules are set. So we're excited to see our kindergarten students attend those events. Another note, I sent out a district email to all incoming kindergarten families regarding our half day. It's a kind of a policy procedure we started last year. All of our kindergarten students, the first day of school, only half of those students showed up. The second day of school, the other half of the students showed up, and then the third day we had a full kindergarten class. And I want to take a moment to thank all of our families out there in our Royal Oak Schools community for being accepting and okay with that schedule. We know it creates some hardships for some families regarding where their child's going to go for the full day, but I can tell you that our teachers really appreciated having smaller class sizes for those first 2 days of school to really help our incoming developmental kindergarten and kindergarten students better understand the procedures and the plans. I saw it firsthand as a building principal. It was phenomenal the first 2 days, and that third day, and we had 4 kindergarten classrooms at Adams last year, that third full day of school, which was the first full day for all kindergarten, those kids jumped right in and really made a difference. So I want to thank the community for that. If parents have any questions, they can always reach out to me directly. I also mentioned in that communication that principals would be communicating directly with the actual date of the kindergarten events that are coming up. The other thing I want to touch on is Bulldog Bound. So that's going to be for our incoming 6th grade students at ROMS, taking place August 16th. This is, again, another wonderful opportunity for incoming 6th grade students to begin to get a better understanding of what goes on at ROMS. I talked to Mrs. Meldrum and her team, and there was a communication sent out that had detailed information to all the incoming 6th grade families. Mrs. Meldrum has done a great job communicating with fifth grade families last year to kind of give them an idea of what was up and coming. So when students come in, they'll be greeted by student connectors, and student connectors are ROM students that are there to help the new incoming students. They'll meet in the learning commons. They'll talk about making locker lanyards, start to make some general connections and relationships with some of the students there. They're going to take a tour of ROMs, so the student connectors will take the incoming sixth graders on a tour, and there'll be, of course, time to practice the lockers, which is always one of the, as a building principal at the elementary level, a lot of parents are worried about the ability of the kids to open that locker, so they're going to spend time that way. Our administrative team at ROMS has it sectioned out by alphabet, so we won't have all the students in there. There'll be 3 opportunities on August 16th for incoming sixth grade families to roll into there, so we're looking forward to that as well. I'm going to keep going because we can have more questions at the end, but this is kind of in the theme of new. We have our new teacher orientation taking place August 15th and 16th next year, so we're excited about officially welcoming some new Royal Oak teachers and staff members to the district. We've been working on the agenda for that, so they've had a good response, so they're excited about joining our team, and we're excited about having them here. The other thing I wanted to touch on next week, like I said, is a really busy week. So as we're all, as you may be aware, we've really engaged in some trauma-informed leadership, professional development throughout this school year. Officially at this point, we've had 2 cohort groups take part in 3-day training sessions with Shenandoah and Cheffalo. Now, the first 2 cohort groups was really focused more on administrators and having our administrative team be fully trained, and we've successfully accomplished that. This 3rd cohort group is really an opportunity for our teachers and staff, paraprofessionals, teachers to take part in the cohort training. I'm happy to report we have about 62 staff members that have volunteered their 3 days, 3-day time. So it's 3 full-day sessions, August 14th, 15th, and 16th with Shenandoah to really focus on the trauma-informed leadership approach. Now, August 17th and 18th is a 2-day training opportunity for anyone that has completed the 3 cohort sessions to now be a train the trainer. Part of what we've talked about as in our strategic planning and our long-term goals is to find a way to internally grow and build our capacity around the trauma-informed work, and Shenandoah has been phenomenal in helping us lead that, so we're excited about taking part into that. We've talked a little bit about cohort 1 and 2. There was, I think, a 2-month gap in between each of the dates, so it'll be interesting for this cohort group 3 to have 3 days in a row. I think it'll be even more intentional and more focused when you're not having a 2-month time in between. Last but not least, I want to talk about our Launch into Learning event. We're very excited about this. This is the first time that we're doing it in Royal Oak schools. It's been mentioned a few times tonight, and we've kind of talked about it a little bit before. We've heard loud and clear from our teachers throughout this school year that they really want to have an opportunity to share their passions and share their leadership ability. They're wonderful teachers, and they want to help teach each other. For anyone that's taught or worked in a school level or building level, you know that one of the most important things is teachers learning from each other. And anytime that you can hit on that component within your building, it's going to have phenomenal results. So we have over 70 sessions that have all been offered by teachers or staff members for August 24th. So it's going to take place at ROMS from 8:30 to 11:30 essentially. So 3 50-minute sessions. I was looking through the menu of options: math instructional strategies, social emotional learning in the classroom, high quality literacy experience and instruction, creating and supporting inclusive classrooms, de-escalation strategies. So we're really excited about these opportunities. Mrs. Isabella and Mr. Walensky have been also working hard to find sessions that are going to be appropriate for our ABN, the grounds crew, our custodial staff, paraprofessionals, our administrative secretarial staff too. We want it to be welcoming to all staff members, so thank you both for working to find sessions that'll be appropriate for those as well. We have a wonderful lunch planned. Mrs. Murphy has worked hard to get some donations and some sponsors, M3 being one of them. So Chartwell's as well, thank you. We have some box lunches coming, so we're excited about this event. It's the first time we're doing it. A lot of excitement, and we're excited about launching into learning. And that was a lot, so that's all I have for now, but happy to take any questions, or I can go back and review parts of it. I didn't know if we should stop and, just gonna go with it.
Any questions from anybody? Okay. I had a question. So I know you mentioned the Bulldog Bound, which is for our incoming 6th graders. I know the high school has a similar event. Can you speak to that event? I know having incoming high schools, but can you speak to that event as well that we have for ninth graders?
Yeah, I believe it's similar as far as bringing incoming freshman students into the high school to, again, learn a little bit more about what's going on there. It's on the 18th, right? Okay, that's what I thought. It's August 18th. They're going to have staggered sessions as well, kind of with students coming in. Again, it's all about onboarding, whether it's kindergarten students and families, incoming sixth grade families, new staff members, or incoming ninth graders. This is definitely that time of the year to engage everybody into that work, so.
Well, and I can only encourage, I know, it's difficult because this is the time of the year everybody's trying to squeeze in their last bit of vacation. But these events that we offer for incoming students into the schools, I think is really kind of important. It gives you a feeling, a sense of community, a sense of feeling comfortable into the school before the actual first day of school. So it's just a really nice opportunity to kind of investigate the school on your own, with your friends, with your peers. And just, I always see it's a nice little bonding experience for our students just to get them together. But I think it's just a level of comfort. We want to provide those assurances to our students that they know where their classes are, they know where their lockers are, they can open their lockers, that's always key. I did have another question, Dr. Ioannis. So I know I had seen some social media stuff about safety. So part of our start of the school year, we do have some training, some conversation in regards to safety. So I know that's always continues to be a concern for parents. Can you speak a little bit to that?
Yeah, definitely. That's a great question. There's two different ways we're going to work into the safety component. As part of our new teacher orientation, we will have a 2-hour session with Officer Joe Yerke to begin. This will be his opportunity to present to the new teachers and new staff things about our safety protocols, some of our building and emergency plans that we have in place, go bags that Mrs. Isabella and her team have worked on. This will be a good opportunity for new teachers to get that. Within the Launch to Learning sessions, there are some sessions that we are kind of earmarking for staff members to be assigned to. We're working on trying to secure some other security personnel that can speak to some of those emergency plans and things that we have in place. The other thing that I just remembered that I probably should have had on here is prepare training. So prepare training is offered through Oakland schools. It's really a way for schools to better understand emergency situations, situations that can take place in any school setting. So we've already had workshop 1 take place. Again, another example of our staff being so wonderful. Erin Shaughnessy, who is one of our social workers at the middle school, is also able to train. So she trained all of our administrators in workshop 1 just before end of June. So we had a full day session with her. Workshop 2 is coming up August 15th and 16th. This is still for all building level administrators. Again, it's really helping us solidify the protocols and practices that we have in place. If it's anywhere from a child death or a staff member death, there's things and components that we need to work on to improve that component. So the prepare training is really emergency training focused on how we can respond to situations. So those are built in. It hasn't reached the teacher level yet. The prepare workshop 1 and 2 is mainly for building administrators and district level leaders to begin those plans that can kind of flesh itself out into the building level, kind of like the MICIP, Michigan Integrated Continuous Improvement Plan. Establishing goals for the district that can flesh themselves out to all the buildings is something that we're looking to do with the safety component as well.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Mrs. Anderson?
As far as the beginning of the school year, will DK follow the same pattern as kindergarten, or how does that look for the?
Yeah, we did that last year, so developmental kindergarten followed that same half-day schedule. That's a great question, Ms. Anderson. The other thing that we're working on is we want to definitely reiterate that when we say kindergarten, we also mean developmental kindergarten, so I need to do a better job of saying that as well, but because there really is kindergarten. It's just developmental kindergarten, but last year we had them on the same half-day schedule. So yeah, same, and this year we have 6 developmental kindergarten classrooms, so all of our elementary schools will have that. Again, having that for the last 4 years at Adams was huge. When families come, they stay, and they have a good experience in that kindergarten or developmental kindergarten class, and it makes a difference for them staying with us. So yeah, so also for developmental kindergarten as well.
Mr. Jaworski?
Your questions, lots of questions for me. I don't know if this is for Dr. Ioannis or Mr. Belinsky, but if a new staff member does not attend that 2-hour training with Officer Yerke, are they given that training before they're put into the classroom or allowed to be into the classroom, I guess is what I'm getting at.
I would say the answer to that is no, that if they're not there for the initial training, they're still allowed to be in the classroom before they've had training. I would say that the majority of our new hires have had similar training, call it Alice training, before being hired by us. But we do have to put together some sort of plan to catch staff as they come in later to provide a follow-up training to catch all new hires. And this is a new phenomenon, as you know, that we're hiring people year-round now. So it's a little more challenging, but we do plan to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Part of what we've done, and just I thought of something else, in working with Mr. Walensky, our curriculum department really has been working with the mentor-mentee program. So part of what Mr. Walensky has wanted to do is build in better systems within the mentor-mentee program so that because we're hiring year-round. So we're working hard to develop a system where new teachers will come in and we will find a way to give them some kind of onboarding component. It's not going to be a full 2-day session, but I think that's kind of what we're trying to develop here. So we're trying to get out a little bit ahead of it because we know we're doing hiring year-round. So.
Any other questions? No, thank you. Thank you very much. 9.2, Finance and Facilities and Bond, Mrs. Abella.
Good evening. First, I'd like to thank Mike Jacobs and Ann Smith for joining us this evening with such an informative presentation. Not only do they provide food for our children every day, they're good stewards to our community as well, providing a scholarship to Royal Oak High School students, graduating students, and then also some of the nice things that they do for our staff, opening day, these box lunches. So thank you for all that you do for our district. Last week, we had our auditors on site from Yo and Yo. I think there were 6 or 7 of them, depending on the day of the week. They were here all 5 days last week. So it's always interesting to have somebody quiz you on every decision you made for the last 365 days. But it went really well. We had good conversation. There's some new requirements, so they were learning right along with us. We are one of the first districts that get audited each year. And so a lot of times they're kind of using us, I don't want to say as a test case because they're doing it regardless, right? But it's always a good learning experience to work with them as they're learning alongside any new requirements. So it went well. Our new partner, her name is Jamie, will be with us next month for the September meeting. She'll have a short presentation, probably 15 or 20 minutes, and then the board will approve that audit as it's presented to you. Also, the last thing I would like to talk about is that our operations team and our construction team have been working hard all summer to make sure our buildings look great as students return. We're just about there. There's some brickwork that needs to be buttoned up over at Adams, and they're completing the roof over at Keller. But I believe that the custodial staff should be almost 100% with classroom and hallway work here soon. And we're looking forward to a new school year. Do you have any questions for me this evening? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And we did, Jeff was, Mr. Sinowitz was at our Finance and Facilities meeting last week, and one of the questions I know I always ask every year is, are students and staff ready to be in the buildings? Is there anything, that would be obstruction, that's not the right word, but incomplete as they entered the building. And so it sounds like we're in a good position. And I watch the Adams brickwork every day when I drive by, so.
So what's different this year that we haven't had is, of course, the bond work is almost complete. We do have a little bit more to do next summer, the bond remaining funds, but this summer we didn't have a large construction project like we've had for the last, 5 or 6 summers now? So that did change it a little bit. So we're ready to go.
Thank you. Item 9.3, Staff and Student Services, Mr. Walensky.
Thank you, Ms. Van Heidsma. Well, I want to start by talking about item 8.1 on tonight's consent agenda. If you've looked at it, it is a very long list of personnel changes since we last met. There are 38 people on the list tonight, and sometimes when the list is much smaller, it's typically about 10. I'll go through it person by person. I'm not going to do that tonight individually, but I'll just summarize that total for you and highlight a few. There are 13 resignations on tonight's personnel report, but 3 of them come from people who resigned to go back into retirement. One of them being Brian Gordon, who came back for an interim basis. Ken Roser, who was retired, came back to be our benefits coordinator, resigned to be retired again. And Jim Fitzpatrick, who's a retired longtime teacher from Royal Oak, rehired to be a paraprofessional, resigned to go back into retirement. We also have 3 retirements. Vicki Hurst, who's a paraprofessional, has been a paraprofessional at Royal Oak High School since December of 1984, so 39 years ago. Vicki hired in. She has retired. Martha Schroed has been an art teacher for the district. She's at Royal Oak High School. She hired in August of '89, so 34 years of service for Martha. And Teresa Vernier, special education teacher for Royal Oak High School, hired in August of 1991, so 32 years of service for Teresa. And I believe that brings our total number of retirements on the year up to 13. On the report is also 1 child care leave of absence, 17 new hires, which combined with the other new hires since the beginning of June, so far this summer, I talk about summer even though we hire year-round, 44 new hires since June, and 1 rehire. 3 changes in assignment that I'll talk about briefly. Jennifer Nipper is moving from moved from principal of Northwood Elementary to supervisor of continuous improvement. That's on the report tonight. Amanda Glapa, teacher at Royal Oak Middle School, is moving from a teacher consultant at the middle school to supervisor of elementary special education, going to be an administrator. Melanie Davis, who's a social worker at Royal Oak Middle School, is moving to supervisor of secondary special education. And when we promote people internally, it creates a vacancy that we have to fill. So those are 3 positions we have to fill, one of them being the principal of Northwood Elementary, as you know, and I'll talk a little bit about that. That principal position was posted July 25th through August 7th, and we had 54 applicants for the position. Dr. Ioannis and I painstakingly went through all 54 and looked for the attributes and the experiences that the staff and the parents said they wanted in their next principal, and we were able to pick 10 that we thought fit that profile to be interviewed. We held the first round of interviews right here in this room today, those 10 people. And on our panel were 4 Northwood Elementary teachers, 4 district administrators, Dr. Ioannis and myself, and 2 Northwood Elementary parents. And we think we've narrowed it down to 4 that we want to invite back for a second round of interviews 1 week from today. And the panel will change a little bit. 2 different teachers are going to join the panel, and Mr. Chahorski will join that panel as well. And I want to just give a brief enrollment report. We talked a little bit, Dr. Ioannis talked about kindergarten and developmental kindergarten. It's interesting. We're at 350 children enrolled for kindergarten. Last year we had 367 enrolled on the first day of school. So we're down 12 for kindergarten. But DK, we had 47 enrolled, and we currently have 80. So we're up 33. So kindergarten and developmental kindergarten combined, we're up 21 children from last year. And we still have time to enroll more. You know, it's possible we'll have some late enrollment. So, I'm sorry, we have 355 enrolled for kindergarten. I don't know if I said 350. And 80 for developmental kindergarten. And that's my report, unless you have any questions for me.
Mrs. Anderson?
In the past, we've had the new teachers, and will we be having the new teachers?
To a board meeting to introduce them, yes. And I gave them a heads up that I'm going to have them at a board. It's in September, once we have them all on board, and get as many as we can here to introduce to you.
It'll be a busy night.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's a lot of them.
Mr. Walensky, can you speak to, we did approve 2 positions at Finance and Facilities last week, and we typically don't do that at Finance and Facilities, but to get these people in place was critical given the timing. Can you speak to those 2 positions, please?
Yes, the Director of Athletics and Activities, Daniel Russell, who is on the personnel report, but was approved by you at that meeting. actually started August 4th, replacing Brian Gordon in that role, and then Jennifer Nipper moving from principal of Northwood to supervisor of continuous improvement, which is very excited about. I think she's kind of doing double duty right now. She's going to continue serving as the principal of Northwood Elementary until we replace her. So,
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Okay, thank you very much. At this time, we move on to item 10, public comment. The same rules as previously apply. Seeing none. Item 11, board comments and liaison reports. Do we have any board comments and liaison reports? Well, I would like to make a comment for the Get Connected event on August 26th from 5 to 7 p.m. That's going to be at the middle school. We did a very similar event last year at Normandy Oaks, which was a wonderful event. There's a lot of back-to-school activities happening at all of our schools, but this event is one that's a collaborative event, working on getting some community partners to be there too, community resources for families, such as youth assistance, the YMCA, other organizations as well. But it's really about just making a connection. And so we want families who would just love to join us. We have Ray's Ice Cream that will be coming and a food truck. And just an opportunity for parents to connect with other parents and for kids to connect with kids. So definitely encourage that. And I know as the back to school events are coming at each of the schools, it's an exciting time. And encourage parents to attend those things because it really is important to connect, right? We all want to feel some connection to folks. And so students want to connect and parents want to connect. And so I think it's really important and I highly encourage that. And seeing no other comments, we're going to say the meeting is adjourned.